Emma Frost has arrived, an offensive first vanguard with the ability to put constant pressure on the enemy, and I guarantee almost everyone will play her wrong. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and here's how you can master Emma Frost, the newest hero in Marvel Rivals. If you didn't already know, our team released 4 hero guides for each of the Fantastic Four heroes during Season 1. As Marvel Rivals continues to expand its roster of heroes, we'll keep bringing you new content, so no matter when you jump back into the game, you're ready to hit the ground running. As I said in the intro, Emma Frost is a vanguard, but certainly not your typical frontline hero. She brings both offensive and defensive capabilities to the battle, with an ultimate that is not only wickedly powerful, but incredibly unique as well. Her primary attack is called Telepathic Pulse. When held, Emma sends out a psionic beam of energy that deals increased damage the longer the beam hits. This has about a 10-meter range, which gives you some nice flexibility with how far away you attack enemy heroes. You can easily track how amplified the attack is by looking at the meter in the center of your screen. Now the goal here is to maintain that stack of 100, which means more damage. You can easily do this by constantly attacking an enemy, and although there is a delay, a few seconds after attacking, that meter will reset to 0. This is your bread and butter, and quite honestly how Emma can apply so much pressure on enemy teams because she can maintain an almost constant uptime on her attacks. Emma's right click is Mind's Aegis, which is her main defensive ability. When used, she sends out a diamond barrier in a straight line. By holding the right click, you can actually send the shield out incredibly far, which allows you to position it almost anywhere. Unlike other shields in the game, Mind's Aegis easily has the most flexibility and is by far the easiest shield to use, blocking attacks from ground level or even from enemies up above. Like other shields, recalling this is essential as it does have 500 hit points. By recalling, you reset the timer but also gives it the chance to regenerate. Emma's E Psychic Spear is without a doubt her most important skill to master. When used, you send out a small projectile in a straight line. Your goal is to hit an enemy hero, and when you do, a crystal spawns somewhere nearby. Emma's primary attack can deal damage to this crystal, and that damage passes on to the enemy hero it's attached to. If you manage to destroy the crystal, the enemy hero takes an additional burst of damage. This one is all about accuracy more than anything else because it requires you to hit that initial skill shot, but once you do, it's essentially free damage on the enemy it's attached to. The key is not to entirely tunnel the crystal, ignoring everything else around you, because attacking it without regard for your surroundings could put you in a position to get caught sleeping yourself. I should also mention that enemies that run far enough away from the crystal force it to dissipate, so you have to be strategic about when to use it. Sniping enemies with this ability really isn't valuable as the effect almost immediately fades away. Emma's next 4 abilities are all tied together. Her left shift is called Diamond Form. When used, she's granted bonus damage reduction, becomes unstoppable, which means she can't be crowd controlled, and has access to 3 additional abilities. The first is called Faceted Fury, which replaces her primary attack. When held, Emma punches enemies in melee range, dealing damage. Second, her E ability is replaced with Carbon Crush. When used, Emma dashes forward and grabs an enemy hero. Then she turns them around and smacks them for a chunk of damage. You do have to land that initial dash on an enemy hero. It's not automatic, but if you do that, 2 things happen. First, you lock down an enemy for a few seconds, taking them out of combat completely. And second, you have the chance to use Emma's next ability to force them out of position. Emma's final ability within Diamond Form is Crystal Kick. When used, she knocks back enemies in an arc in front of her. Those enemies take damage and even take additional damage if they hit something in the environment. Diamond Form overall is a really interesting part of Emma's kit because while you have increased damage reduction, it's essentially all about offensive pressure. The pitfall, as you might expect, is thinking you're invulnerable, which you're not. It's incredibly easy to overcommit when in this form. Sadly, Emma's kit lacks any true movement ability, but you can use that Carbon Crush as a short dash if you're in an absolute pinch. Diamond Form also has a relatively short window, but you can, if you time it right, get off 2 Carbon Crushes and 2 Crystal Kicks. Emma's final ability is her ultimate Psionic Seduction, and this one is a doozy. When used, Emma channels a massive AoE attack in a large cone in front of her. This deals constant damage to all enemies in front of Emma and actually hits enemies at a maximum of 27 meters away, which is insanely far. Enemies caught in the beam are actually unable to use their ultimates, directly negating any real counter to Emma's ability. Finally, after a few seconds in the beam, enemies lose control of their heroes and they move towards Emma. Three key things all happening at once with this ultimate, and in combination with other heroes, it's an absolute game changer. But as always, timing is everything. You never want to use this ult when you're at risk of dying because it's a channeled skill. You can still take damage and easily be stunned or killed at any point during the channel, which will end its effects instantly. The ability to block enemy ults is the real magic here, especially in competitive, where counter-ulting is such a core part of the gameplay. Emma changes that dynamic, and now you can coordinate with your team to effectively block a healer from counter-ulting at all, which buys you more than enough time to wipe out an enemy team. I should also mention that Emma does have a team-up ability called Mind Link that works with Magneto and Psylocke. When on a team with Emma, those two heroes can cast the team-up ability, causing a clone projection to spawn for a few seconds. Those copies mirror Magneto and Psylocke's movement and abilities, which can potentially confuse enemy heroes trying to figure out which version to attack. Understanding Emma's kit is one thing, but playing her is something else entirely. Like I said in the intro, she's not your typical Vanguard that's at the center of the action, at least not all the time. Her primary attack being ranged gives her a lot of flexibility, and I actually find that she's best suited as an off-tank, putting pressure on the enemy team, but letting a big like Hulk or the Thing be right in the absolute middle of chaos. By being slightly at range, she can also strategically use her Mind's Aegis shield to either protect herself or her teammates, and because it's such an easy ability to position, you have a lot of freedom to move around while still providing that defensive utility. By attacking enemies around that maximum 10-meter range, you can also learn to perfect Psychic Spear, which, like I said, is absolutely the centerpiece of her kit. Being able to tag enemies with a high degree of accuracy is essential for dealing damage. Tagging them and popping that crystal adds a burst of damage that most enemy healers can't heal through, or at least can't really predict, which makes it hard to react to. Because Emma has relative freedom to move around and still be a potent offensive Vanguard, you can try and sneak around the side and attack enemy healers, but you have to be careful not to overcommit, as she lacks any sort of true mobility, which is, let's be clear, her biggest weakness. Diamond form is where things get really interesting, and you can use it offensively or defensively depending on the situation. When you're using this form, you're more of a traditional melee Vanguard, but you have the added bonus of disruption. You can kill enemy heroes, absolutely, but the goal should be to trap them with Carbon Crush and then displace them with Crystal Kick. If you've got a strong team behind you, they'll identify when you're using this combination of attacks and hopefully pick off the enemy you're choosing to target. As you might expect, grabbing an enemy Vanguard isn't as useful because they have so much health and healers often spend more time healing them, but if you manage to grab a duelist or even a strategist and dislodge them, it's usually a free kill. You can also use this ability around map hazards such as pits or cliffs to ideally send heroes that have little chance at recovery to fall to their doom. Diamond form unlocks a lot, but again, you have to be careful not to overcommit. When you do need a true tide turner, that's when you unleash your ultimate, Psionic Seduction. Truth be told, this skill is so good, there's very few instances when it won't be effective. Damage, negating ultimates, and crowd control, 3 effects all tied up in one ability. The key is to try and trap as many enemy heroes as possible, which is why you really only want to use this when the enemy team is grouped up. But like I said before, it's got a huge range, which honestly feels unfair. Just be careful not to get caught using this when you're at risk of being killed, and you'll find almost instant success. So there you have it, everything you need to know to master Emma Frost. We'll continue this series with any new heroes that get announced during Season 2, but we need your help. If you like this content and you want more Marvel Rivals in your feed, hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.